Good morning, everybody. There is no late OP opportunity. I am sorry for that. I apologize to all citizenry. No late OP has happened. I apologize. I gave you the opportunity, but you didn't take it. Or as they say in Aussie land, says Balaji Srinivas, light OP. Got it. Amazing. Yashodeep Solapure says Virat's ego OP. We have to talk about that. Welcome to the show, man. Very, very excited about today's guests. I have a bunch of really stupid questions written for them. Just a couple of things before we begin. If you've never seen the show before, please give a like because that ups the algorithms and ensures that more people sort of tune into this and drives more traffic towards here. Subscribe to the channel. We have four podcasts every week. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Sunday at 11 o'clock, or depending on what the time for the guess is. Goddamn, he's on time, says Pratik Menon with great surprise. Completely, everybody's shocked. Also, I'll tell you what's coming on Saturday and Sunday. I'm getting a bunch of comedians. On Saturday, I have Siddharth Dudeja, Sumaira Sheikh. We're going to be discussing whether Tenet is a superior movie to Avara Pagal Divana. So that's going to be an interesting movie. We're going to watch those two movies and then explore which is the better movie. I haven't seen either yet, so that should be interesting. And Sunday, I'm not sure who we have, but I'm sure it'll be somebody fun. Lots of people coming up. Chris Shrikant, I think should be on in the next week or so, and a bunch of other people. Bring some Rishabh Pant talks, please, Jay Solanki. Oh, of course we will. Lots of stuff. Okay, if you've not seen the show, I'm going to ask a bunch of questions to my guests. Varun Thakur may join. I'm not too sure just yet if he has. He's out doing vaccination thingies, so that is priority. If he does come in, then he'll come in. If not, then I'll take a few questions from you guys. Couple of things to announce. As I said before, all super chat earnings for last week and this week go towards raising money for oxygen cylinders for NGOs in Pune and Delhi. Because I think those are the two worst hit as far as I understand. We've raised a reasonable amount, so that's about it. If you'd like to give money directly for that, then you can do it on InstaMojo and PayPal. One of my mods will put that up shortly. Okay, last thing to mention, my sister has a book out called The Terrible, Horrible, Very Bad Good News. So please get on Amazon and buy it and support her if you like it. Okay, that's about it. Now I'm going to bring on my guests. Very excited. They're probably the most viral, is that a term? Or most loved, most beloved people in cricket sports reporting in the world. The boys are here. Please give it up for the great cricketer. You can switch on your camera now, please.
Great energy for the morning.
I love that.
Great energy.
Shortly.
Yeah.
Just do it. This is it's inspired by an Indian news anchor called Arnab Goswami, who just like it's great.
I was going to say,
great.
yeah. I thought it was.
I was wondering if that was the inspiration.
I thought so. Yeah. Yeah.
How are you guys doing, by the way? I you know what I thoroughly enjoyed is that I've been watching your stuff for about a month now, and it's like, oh, this is the new way to do this, which is that you have interviews with cricketers which are uncensored and unencumbered by the BCCI, and then of course you guys spoke to Dan Christian.
We were wondering how long it would take.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Immediately.
Well, it's not like we sat down and made a formula of how to do these interviews. Like what came before it was like 10 years each of playing grade cricket in Australia, which is a very debauched, dysfunctional, poor cultured arena.
It's awesome.
Well, it's really good. And that was our university degree. And so we're just kind of picking up that experience and then just putting it on top of a lot of other cricketers who've gone through the same thing, but pretend they haven't when they've made it to the top.
That's right.
But I completely understand because I've been doing about 130 episodes of this and we've had to cut down about, I think I've had to edit about 7 of them. The people said some crazy shit and then they message me later. It's like, hey man, I said some crazy shit. Can we cut it down? I'm like, yes. I don't want your career to end over my interview. So
yeah.
Had a bit of that.
Well, we'll get there, I think, with that. But because it's just different around the world. Obviously, India controls everything in cricket. And so we've never really had that experience of a guest saying something which they didn't want out there. And even if they have said that, we just don't reply to that message and we just post it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Because we just forget who they are.
Yeah.
That's not true.
No, we had one player We can't say. But one player
Who was that?
participated in a T20 tournament and made a disparaging remark about the place that he played and said it was a dump, and then he called me and asked me to go into the show and remove that bit, which I did.
Really? I don't remember that.
Yeah.
Who was that?
Okay. No. Don't think that would defeat that idea.
It's trying to be as subtle as possible. Yeah. And Ian is like, say it, just say it. Come on.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that. By the way, like I was thinking about this again, which is that I think you guys discussed this briefly with Pat Cummins about Washington Sundar naming his dog Gabba, and you completely, very nicely named, like, if they named the dog Edgbaston, because even you know that if you named an Indian ground, that itself would be flagged. So I love how smart you guys are with these interviews.
Yeah, well, it's a fine line between comedy and death threats, isn't it? And I've always said that. So.
You have always. Yeah.
Edgbaston doesn't roll off the tongue like Gabba. Like Gabba that actually could be a good name for a dog. Obviously, we're now bulldozing the Gabba because now that the curse has been lifted, now the teams we've revealed that teams can actually win there. India's C team anyway. Other teams will probably still struggle.
That's right.
Now we're just going to knock it down. So, but Gabba is actually a good name for an animal. Edgbaston less so.
What's the nicknames of that? Edgy.
Edgy, yeah.
It depends what you're into.
We've all got something.
Yeah.
Edgy, which is Steve Smith during the IPL. That's
you go.
That's good. Easy transition there. A lot of people. I've been watching. Okay, so I was telling you guys this before we started, which is that, and I'll give you context to this. I started reading. I interviewed Alan Wilkins, who's just one of the nicest people out there, and I was reading his book, which is a story about his experience during the county cricket, and he's very self-effacing and self-deprecating, and he's just all that. He's like, hey, I got Viv Richards out, but it was the pitch, it was not me, and blah blah blah. And then I picked up the Great Cricketer book, which is the antithesis to Alan Wilkins. That should be at the back. It's great. So I would actually love to know. I think a lot of people who've tuned in probably don't know the story of how you guys started, because you guys started off as a anonymous Twitter handle, which then became a book and all the rest. So why don't you tell people just the entire story and the journey of the Great Cricketer?
Well, you sort of kicked it off correctly. So it started off as an anonymous Twitter account that I was doing while doing a corporate job. So it was kind of like going to the bathroom and releasing some thoughts about cricket. I'd only just finished playing cricket, and I just felt like there were lots of things about playing the game that hadn't been said. So, and it seemed to resonate with people. And then there were three of us originally after that, and then we decided we just did some tweets, and then people liked it. So then we thought, can we do a book out of it? Because we wanted to explore beyond even Twitter then was only 140 characters.
140,
yeah. And so we pitched the book idea to about 30 different publishers in Melbourne and Australia. And the very last one that we'd never heard of came back and said, yeah, okay. And so we wrote a book. It was really well received. And then so then every year it was like, let's do a new project and see if people like it. So then we started a podcast and people like that. And I think, and then, it was another book. And then, it just TV and stuff like that came along. But it really is just because I think the idea resonated with people in Australia, like in Australia and England. I think a lot of cricket, probably in India as well, but a lot of cricket is sort of presented by professionals or ex-professionals who give a very sanitized, polished account of what the game is. And then when you've got some idiots speaking about it the way that we experienced it at grade level, a lot of people, I think, say, no, that's actually what it is. It's all of the stuff that happens underneath the surface psychologically, because it's a very brutal game and people follow dreams, and those dreams are already dead, and that just doesn't make its way to TV. So we just tried to give voice to it, and people liked it. And the reason why we can do it is because we played it and we experienced it and we felt it. We felt the pain. So it's really just a therapy exercise for us. It's been 10 years of therapy.
By the way, I picked up the book. I highly recommend. I've read about 40 pages, whatever's allowed in the sample. And eventually I will buy it. I'm going to buy it today because there's a sequel to it as well. So go pick up the book if you like reading, which a lot of people on the show do. We are up to about 900 concurrent views. Let's get it up to 1,000. So please give likes. Okay. But so you guys had your day jobs. Ian, you and me have a very bizarre similarity, which is both of us work for Channel V.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Has he been on your LinkedIn?
Yeah, you've been on my LinkedIn. Yeah, you've done some homework. Yeah,
wow.
That's I should have.
Yeah, you've rattled him there.
Yeah.
He's like, what?
I tried to erase some of those memories.
The courts actually suppressed that.
Yeah. Because we've had the YouTube channel, Sorabh, for we've had it for a few years, but we've never really started to post until about a bit less than a year ago now. And then what happened at the Gabba sort of exploded us into India, which is obviously how so many Indians consume their cricket, because in the past, our podcast is quite big in Australia and the UK, but a lot of people consume that through iTunes or Spotify, right? And so we're kind of we're trying to just now finding our feed into India, and we're meeting new people, and that all that's really exciting. But basically, we're trying to figure out who everyone is, and so Sam and I are trying to figure out how famous are you? How. What's going on? Are you going to run for some politics soon?
Yeah.
Or
why aren't we on your main channel as well?
Yeah,
there's more subscribers.
Yeah,
what's
going on?
See, that's for people like Harsha Bhogle. No. Well, I'll tell you, my great ambitious plans, which changed very rapidly over the last month or so, was that the main channel was largely for stand-up. So I started a second channel where I'm going to do these lives, etc. And then, of course, then as we all know, stand-up stopped completely. So all my plans. So now that channel is just sitting there, and I'm waiting for when it'll be used. Which is a serious answer to that question.
Sorry. I was going to say, Rob, sorry. So I used to work at Channel V. Yeah. So before we did this, we do this as our full-time job now. But yeah, before this, we had proper jobs. And so, yeah, I used to work for the music channel. So Channel V was in doing production stuff was before that. And then you were working in comms job. And then I had a degree, and then I had to go work in a law firm for a bit. And then I was like, I just want to make jokes on the internet with my friends.
Good career choice.
It's a good career choice, stable, which my father hasn't really forgiven me for just yet, but because he doesn't really understand how podcast work or what YouTube is. But after I tell him I've been on this show, he'll probably disown me. But it's still, it's an experience.
By the way, it was very nice. You guys donated $5,000 to ACT grant for basically who were buying a lot of cylinders, I think primarily in Delhi, which is great. But when I heard that number, I was like, wow, I didn't know people were making that much of YouTube. That was my first thought. Was not, hey, this is nice. I was like, it was immediate jealousy. I was like, where did they get their money from?
Yeah, that was just a flex, really, from us. No, it was 5,000 Australian dollars. I should say we had some gambling bets.
We went to the races before, and we just thought.
It's been good. It's all off the back of it's all off the back of dysfunctional cricketers that came before us, and the entire ecosystem of grade cricket in Australia. So, we stand on the shoulders of giants, really, and get paid.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was going through the list of people you've interviewed so far, and I was actually surprised because I think a lot of the stuff is not on YouTube. You've interviewed you've had 130 interviews, which is almost 200 guests. Which is substantial. Right. So is it that there was a lot of people you guys played with, or was it just you just saying, hey, let's or coincidentally bumped into, or how did you go about getting all of these people?
Well, you start small and then you build it. I don't think there's any real secret to it. And also, there's a lot of people who reject you as well. But no, I think we we were lucky to start with a little bit of a few cricket relationships from our time playing. So, and people who might have recognized us or whatever. And because in Australia, grade cricket, which is the level below state cricket, it really did, especially used to be a very important part of the way through to the top. And so for players, even now, even guys like Warner and Stark and Smith and all those guys, they played a lot of grade cricket before they moved up. So when you sort of say that you've come from that area or that arena, they know what it is straight away. So we started with Ed Cowan and we had a Twitter account going for a long time. So a lot of people already followed us and knew the style. Merv Hughes was our first guest, and he was like, "Oh, my sons love you blokes," and so they recognize it. Then they come on, and if you can do good interviews with those guys, then you sort of, you put yourself out to the next person, or you might say, "Oh, do you know this person?" you just build it that way, really.
The first interview we ever did for the first episode of our podcast was with Ed Cowan, and it didn't record.
Yeah. So I had to tell him.
Let me tell you, it's one of the finest interviews ever. Yeah, it's a bit like right. Dan Christian.
It's a Dan Christian interview.
Yeah, it's just in the ghost. We also had another one with Matt Renshaw when he was opening the batting for Australia. We had one with him, and that didn't record either. So there was like the first year, there were definitely some mistakes made. But yeah, that's but it feels like a long time ago now.
Yeah, but no, people have been really good. Yeah. Like even before we started the podcast, we were like, there would be some players that you would recognize that like would slide into the DMs with jokes, that they wanted to see out there, or stories they wanted out there they didn't want to put their name to. So we were very happy to be the conduit for a lot of that sort of stuff. Yeah. So, it was one of those things. And I think we were lucky with the podcast because we'd done so much work beforehand with books and Twitter and stuff, there was some knowledge of who we were, but that doesn't mean we don't get like rejected and ghosted and blue ticked like every day by people that we ask for interviews,
It's coordinating with people is a beautiful boost to your ego. But I was going through the interviews, and then so I the Pat Cummins one was great. Shane Watson. What is it about Shane Watson? Like as an Indian, like Shane Watson has been one of my favorite cricketers for a really long time because he's accomplished. He seems like a very earnest person. He's very committed, but he's awkward. There's like the number of videos of Shane Watson. Either it's the DRS, either it's getting hit by the throw by Michael Clark, or it's something absurd. But what is it about? Like, I mean, because he's the one regular guest on The Great Cricketer, right? And he seems to be loving the jokes. Like my favorite thing is that I don't know if you guys was watching Hotstar, or Dugout or whatever. Yeah, so it's Scott Styris, and they used to get Shane Watson as a guest, and just to mess with him each time they mentioned anybody missing an in-swinger, they would keep replaying Shane Watson getting out to Trent Bolt, and this became a joke where it happened 11 times in one broadcast, and Shane is like, "Dude, I get it." Like,
I'm sure he loves that. Yeah. Now that Shane's our best friend.
Yeah.
Well, he was the one. I mean, Sam organizes the interviews. I just push record on the camera, but he was one that we had to work on. We had to work on for a long time to even get him across the line, because he's a guy that, I mean, how many times did we ask him? Several. And it was like the various different people that we got to ask him. It was like,
it became an obsession. For me to get him, because like I think to your point, he's such an interesting character,
and we love him,
especially in Australia, because like when he started his career, he could do everything. He could bowl 145 k's an hour. He was blonde, attractive. He could hit the ball out of the park. He had the capacity to score hundreds. He was a great slips fielder. He was a captain that people wanted there when Clark was there. Great respect of everybody, and like his career went through a few changes, and so we were always, but he was always tagged with that guy who just always wanted to review it, right? And so everyone just thought he was the guy who wanted to review it. That was it. And we knew from talking to lots of other players, like Ed Cowan loves him. All these players love him, and we were like, okay, we've got to get him on. But he is very, because he's so famous, he's very conscious of how he's perceived, as you would be, right? And I think he would probably see the great cricketer as like, these guys are just going to take the piss out of me. They're going to be like everyone else on the internet or whatever. So I understand why he was reluctant. And he was reluctant for about 5 years. Like I first went to his website, and then it was like, it started getting silly. Because like we performed at his cricket club where he wasn't there, and the president of the cricket club said, "No, I'll try and get him." And I'm like, "Great, the president's going to him."
Perfect.
President comes back, like, okay, he just doesn't want to do it. Just not interested. Okay, right. Okay, okay. Let's go to his wife, who is his manager. Right, no reply. Okay, right. Let's go to, and then there's a guy who helps us, who does graphics. He's like, I opened the batting with him at Sutherland. I'll ask him. I'll ask him mid over, in between overs. Yeah, and he's like, I can't. He just said no, doesn't want to do it. I'm like, what's going on?
To be fair, if you're playing in a game and your batting partner is just some club, he walks up to you and says, "Like, great cricketer, interview thoughts."
Exactly. And like, and then eventually, it actually was Ed Cowan who got him over the line. They're really good friends, and he needed some trust, which was fine. And so we finally interviewed him. We flew up to Sydney to do it because we were so excited, and He brought us some of his kit from his business, T20 Stars, check it out. And I think we relaxed him because I think he realized that we also love him as well. Yeah. And then the thing with Shane, I think, because he's my mate now.
That's right, Shane Watto.
He's like, every cricketer loves him. He's a cricketer's cricketer. He's very, very funny, particularly off camera. He's he's a lot more polished on air.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I couldn't speak more highly about him. Then, yeah, when we asked him if he wanted to do like a weekly show for the IPL because he's a king of it, he said yes. And so he went from being like, you know, the white whale we could never get to like the guy who's on more than anyone else. So we're really
because we asked Dhoni first if he wanted to do that, but then but then MS was playing, so we had to just put up with Shane Watson. So you know, it's good.
And finding Dhoni's opening partner is a little hard work. Like I think I have a higher chance of finding that out somewhere.
Yeah, I'm not touching that. Yeah, I'm not saying anything about MS. It's not good.
But it's so interesting because Gaurav Kapoor, who does Breakfast with Champions, and I mean has this insane. He basically said that it's about the cricketers trusting you, and because I think a lot of them have been burned so often because everybody's aiming for the clickbait thing, which is that hey, Shane Watson murders 9 penguins. Like they basically want that, and so they just need somebody to say that hey. Which is why even the Dan Christian episode, right? I completely agree with everything. I'm like, obviously, you don't want to get this guy into trouble. It makes absolutely no sense. And I think that's what cricketers want to see is that, hey, this is not somebody who's going to screw us over because they've, as you said, you guys have been there before. Do you think there's a bit of that as well, or what?
Yeah, for sure. But there's different ways you can show trust to people. And again, I think that even like having played grade cricket, like especially Aussies or even English guys, like. They sort of know what your style is and that you're it's not like a cricketer's cricketer. You wouldn't say that, but like that there's a certain kind of irony or sarcasm to what you're doing that's a bit cheeky or whatever. But if you can kind of let them know that you do respect them and you do because they're international cricketers and that we're not interested in burning anybody. Like it's like for us doing interviews, it's got to be fun for the other person. But all they need to be able to bring is really like, you sense it early if they do have the ability to laugh at themselves. I mean, if they do and they know they make mistakes or whatever, then the interview can be great. And I think audiences love that because we all make mistakes. But some of them do have a lot of, commercial interests to protect and stuff. So they don't want to go there. So you've got to work a little bit harder to try and find things or twist things around or make the joke about you. And but yeah, ultimately, like it's got to be fun for the interviewee. And then it goes pretty well. So, and even with the Christo one, that was really one thing that was funny about that was like that the story he told wasn't even off the back of a question that we even asked. He sort of volunteered it. We were just asking Kyle, which is more important, like T20 World Cup, the championship or the IPL. And then like Christo just barges in. Hey, we're just on a Virat the other day. But, it's like it's an introduction for us into cricket over there, like in India as well. It is amusing to us so long as Dan's not in trouble from it. But that's how these guys talk. And, we try and get conversations going that guys actually have. Like they are media trained. They know what to leave aside. A lot of stuff they say off air is funnier. But if they can trust you and you can just get a bit of that like authentic conversation going, then people tend to like it and everything tends to be okay. Like if players come out of it and the audience likes them better, then everyone wins, that's the idea.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It was so interesting because most of the interviews you've done, you've always made like a couple of jokes about the cricketers and all that, and then you interviewed Sunil Gavaskar. And like, what do you say about like you can't insult Sunil Gavaskar Sunil Gavaskar, Lara? There's very few jokes you can make about these guys.
Yeah. Lara's all right.
Gavaskar was one where because we're so aware of like, well, we know what we don't know. And like, I feel like I know a bit about Brian Lara because there's a great like battle with the Aussies and that's kind of our era that we grew up with, right? Gavaskar's a generation before and India, like, Pez and I are still trying to figure it out, And so, but then he's just got like this aura because it's Gavaskar. And like you were saying that, for your dad, he was like Gavaskar.
That was why I was nervous. I think it was because like, that was the one interview my dad was like, oh, can you send me that one? Because like when I grew up, he was like, what would have been early 90s or whatever, he was like, Gavaskar is the best batsman. I know Gavaskar had finished by then, but like he was like, Sonny Gavaskar is like a legend. And it's very like for an Aussie in the early 90s, a guy like the name Gavaskar is like mystical. you know, whereas like with Aussie legends, like you've sort of played on the same fields as them before, or you know their orbit, but like it's like Gavaskar was organised by Channel 7, so he didn't respond to us as well. We just asked.
Right.
Yeah.
So he was sort of a bit obliged to do it. So it wasn't like he was coming in going like, I'm really keen to talk to these idiots.
Great cricket. I'll definitely
do that. You know, there's like 3 or 4 people. Exactly. Fucking mate, get me on there.
Oh, get me on that, please.
I really need the PR. There's heaps of people standing around and there's lights on. And so that was one where we were a bit like, let's like ease our way into that one.
Steady.
And he actually was more relaxed than us, I think. We probably could have pushed it a bit more, but we wanted to just take it easy early. So
I was hungover, so I was a bit nervous in that element.
I just felt out of shape as well.
Yeah, I just wasn't looking good. Yeah, it's a long summer, you know?
Yeah. So I did stand up for the C8 Cricket Awards ages back, and I told my dad, it's exactly what Sam just said. I told my dad, like, oh, it's all these cricketers. There's like Ramiz Raja and Anil Kumble and blah. And my dad like, yeah, okay. And then I said Sunil Gavaskar. Sunil Gavaskar is there. I'm like, yeah, he's there. Dad, chill. So I did my set, and I ran after Sunil Gavaskar because I mean, as an Indian specifically, it's like, I mean, this is one of the biggest legends. And I went to Sunil Gavaskar. And so usually after a stand-up show gets done, people are just like, hey, good job, good stuff, good stuff. Sunil Gavaskar's like, so the young people really enjoyed, huh? Which is like saying, I did not. Thanks. But he's...
Bit of a new way of doing things.
Generational divide.
Not for me.
Not for me.
He was all right.
Okay.
It was a great interview. It was okay. Yeah.
Okay, we have a lot of chats popping in, a lot of questions. So I'm going to I have a lot of questions of my own, but I'm going to start asking these. Just 1 second. Okay. We have a first question pop in from Neeraj Krishnan. By the way, thanks a lot for US $10. Appreciated. Siddharth Shah says, boys, what represents the Asian century more? 2-day test matches on spinning wickets or postponing the T20 World Cup only to play IPL instead?
Why have one? We can have it all, I say.
Yeah.
2-day test match.
I think it's 2 days for me.
2-day test match was so much of that was so funny.
Oh, it was so funny.
Because we've spent the last 5-6 years and our lives beforehand just consuming the Australian summers, right? And then last year we started to cover the UK summer as well. And then we're like, well, now that India is the only team that's going to play, let's start watching India play. Might as well. And then like just the pinnacle of that India-England series was when Johnny Bairstow is trying to face Axar Patel. I mean, I've seen your stand-up, Sorabh, and like there's some pretty funny stuff there.
Yeah.
It's
young people like it.
Yeah, the young people seem to like it anyway. It's not for me, but but that was some of the funniest stuff I've ever seen. Like it's just this 10 minutes of absolute chaos.
Carnage.
England kind of think they're in the game, and then Axar's taking the new ball. And it's like, oh no,
and it's Bairstow.
This will be over in 8 minutes.
Yeah, and I think the funny thing about the 2-day test as well was like, because we joke about the Asian century, and like one of the things about like people are always like, no, it's the Indian century, and like I understand, but in Australia we've been like our governments and stuff for a long time have been talking about the Asian century, and we need to think more about Asia than the US. So that encompasses everything. Yeah. And so when the 2-day test with like two opening bowlers who are bowling spin happens, like all of the kind of the Anglo superiority of what cricket is meant to be like starts to explode like in England and Australia. And we all start going, well, that's not proper cricket. That's not correct cricket. What they mean is we can't win that cricket. So we hate it. And so
spinning a bit much, isn't it?
So that and it's like the answer is actually just learn how to play that way. Like that's my view. Cricket can be many things, but you hear all of these people who are just so angry and they don't know how to express it because they're losing, and it's just not right. It's not morally correct. So I think the 2-day test and Axar Patel just spearing it in, picking the fruit, spearing it in, is like the real emblem of the Asian century and why we're going to lose forever.
And then financially, the IPL and World Cups, you guys just play everything over there, and we'll just come over, whatever. You guys do your thing. All good.
By the bizarre thing was that Zimbabwe had a 2-day test match immediately after with Pakistan, right? Was it with Pakistan? Whoever it was. So the thing was that, which is the Instagram memes were about how it's like this is what's happening in 2020, which is that we've already made this happen. But I'll tell you, as an Indian viewer, it was great to see like almost an acknowledgement of our superiority in cricket, right? We were like The ego massage that we got watching you guys getting frustrated was hilarious, and it was I was like,
It was
yeah.
for us
Good
because
for us.
I think that, like, we've got lots of friends in England, and I used to
Yeah.
live there. You've played heaps of cricket over there, so that's all fine. I think the relationship's good, but you know, if there was one team that did have to suffer it, we were very happy to watch that. You know, I think we would laugh if it was Australia too, but just through gritted teeth and a few tears. You know, but we'll just wipe them away.
Our observation has been that, you know, people watch our stuff when Australia's winning, I guess, but when they really start to watch is when Australia start to lose.
Yeah.
Because it evokes all of these. Hang on, we're supposed to be the best team.
Yeah,
we were in '93.
That's right. Yeah, yeah.
You know, like one of the biggest things for us was when Sandpaper happened, because that was kind of like that was like we hadn't been calling that, but like it was a kind of crescendo of everything that we'd spoken about. It's in like the toxic masculinity and the aggression on the field. It was like this ascension to this moment that, of course, was going to happen. You look back on it now and it's like, well, of course, that was something like that was going to happen. And when it did, it was really funny.
After a couple of days.
Not maybe at the time, but
everyone was safe.
Exactly. So, you know, when things are bad for Australia, they're good for us because it's funnier, because it evokes emotion of, you know, what Australian identity is in cricket, you know?
Yeah, I mean, that's the case for any YouTube cricketer, like any YouTube cricket show, which is like Shoaib Akhtar is most funny when Pakistan is really not doing well because he's really pissed. It's great. It's hilarious. And it's the same for us because like that frustration. I think India, I mean, this year has been great. But prior to that, I think there were a couple of losses where, oh my God, there was a YouTube live we did after a particular loss. I've forgotten which one, which I deleted because we're like, listen, we're not going to get any work during the IPL for the next 3 years.
You could be in for a bit of a lean run then, because I don't know when India are going to lose again. Like if you might get something if India lose the toss.
Yeah.
Then maybe it might be a reaction to that. But I think you guys are going to win for a while.
Yeah, but as an Aussie supporter, even with Sandpaper Gate, at least you guys were cheating to win, right?
It didn't even work.
They got pumped. Everyone forgets that the ball burst at all.
Yeah, it was like the worst cheating ever. If you're going to do it, like at least make it go around corners, or like, you know, Mitchell starts running a 7-second 100 or something.
Exactly.
You know, like, you know, but. We got pumped. AB de Villiers scored heaps of runs that game.
That was the only time they actually did the sandpaper. They worked that out. That wasn't happening in the Ashes beforehand or anything. Nah, that was just the only game.
Just the one game. They tried it once.
And only 3 people knew. They
did it one time, and then they stopped doing that.
That's what the findings were.
Yeah, that's right. Where are you looking, mate?
So no one else has to. Yeah, that's it. Close book.
Conclusive evidence has been found. We have Bhumit Patel who says, great cricket is a very refreshing podcast. Happy that you're trying to cover Indian cricket. Sorabh, would you please try to get Graham Swan on the podcast? I'd love to talk to everyone, man. Graham Swan is are you guys fans of Graham Swan?
No, I've never met him. Have you met him?
No, I've never met him. I know, obviously, like excellent bowler, and he's very charismatic broadcaster. I sort of, you know, my guess with Graham Swan, like we would love to talk to him. I don't have a connection to him at the moment, but that would be cool. I sort of feel like with the English Aussie thing, like I feel like he would alpha us, you know, like I feel like he would sort of be
the funny guy.
Yeah, he would be like there wouldn't be room for both, you know, to come in. You'd sort of have to like give him the floor to do his thing, and you know, that would be difficult for my narcissism.
That's right. Yeah.
But by the way, the term chop, okay, which is the term again which I read on the book, right? And it's so is it? This is the question, okay? I grew up in a boys' school. I studied in a boys' school, and every time we would try to insult the other person, we would say, "Hey, man, chop you." Okay, so this is my question: is that is this something you were using?
What kind of school?
Chop you, man! I chop you, bro.
You went to like that.
Yeah. Well, speaking of findings.
I mean, is it a common term, or is it something you guys created?
This is a breakfast show, so we should tone it down. No, I'd heard of it before. Did I?
Yeah,
I didn't make it up.
No, it was a great cricket term.
Yeah.
Great cricket term. It means it's a substitute for sexual intercourse.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. So the crossover with you and the
so
school.
you doing that just saying it's going to be. We'll think about that for a week. Now.
Yeah. Hey, chop you.
Yep.
You're good.
Okay, we have a lot of questions popping in. Siddharth Shah says, has a super chat question. Also, who's your favorite player and why is it Pujara?
Mate, Pajara's the one the boys are scared of.
Yeah, the boys being our friends.
Our friends. No, like off air.
Mm.
And I don't know if it was like a Angie Coley thing. Like they know Virat is king, but Pujara's the one that gives them nightmares.
Yeah, they couldn't get him out.
They just can't get that. Like, and these are guys who like they've spent their entire lives from when they could hold a cricket ball, getting everybody out all the time. And I think he's the one that they feel like he'd be the hardest person to get out. So I have heaps of respect for Pujara. He batted really slowly at times in the Aussie summer, and that really wound a lot of Aussies up as well because, you know, in Australia, it's like, no, you've got to push the game forward and be aggressive and bat fast and stuff. And he was obviously playing just perfect innings that allowed the other guys to do what they had to do. So, no, but Pujara is amazing. Yeah.
Ponting was my guy as a kid growing up and remains my guy. And we've met him a couple of times now. And he's like, everyone loves Ricky Ponting, you know, but like as a kid growing up, because I was a very bad batter, you know, I had the kookaburra, I had the really high backlift, which actually caused huge technical deficiencies because I'm not Ricky Ponting. But like even his fielding, the hairy forearms, all of it, you know, punter.
The way the baggy green sits on the head
just
sort of feels like it was born with it on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Some say that he was.
Yeah, some say he was.
But you're a Warren guy, obviously.
Oh yeah, like Mark Waugh with the bat and Shane Warne with the ball. Like Warne was my hero. A bold leg spin. He was just you know, virtuoso. And yeah, obviously nowadays, you know, well, actually, I haven't met him. Actually, I have met him once, but anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, Mark Waugh, Shane Warne.
Yeah.
Oh, so Ricky Ponting is an interesting one because, like, I mean, as you mentioned, not enough has been covered about his hairy arms. Like, he wouldn't have required sandpaper. Just be like,
Not bad.
Yeah. I think that's why Maxwell and him get along so well. I think that's it.
So I was doing some cricket event. I had forgotten for what it was. And I think on the panel was Anil Kumble, Shane Bond, and Ricky Ponting. And I'm like, hey, Anil Kumble. And you don't realize that Anil Kumble is a big unit.
He's
like,
massive. He's massive.
Really huge.
Yeah. Is he scary?
And he's, oh my God, I was very intimidated by him because he's not like Ricky Ponting is. And with good reason, Anil Kumble, I think all of them have a sort of firewall just because they're like, just enough. Like, I don't have space for more friends. Just, it's not going to be you.
Please.
Yeah.
But Ricky Ponting, both times I've met him. Once I performed for the Mumbai Indians and he was, he said, hey, good job, even though it was a terrible show. So he was still really nice.
Yeah.
And so I was surprised by Aussie cricketers on and off them. The theory was that Steve Waugh, we used to admire, but you didn't start liking him until after he retired.
Yeah.
And that was the case with Ricky Ponting as well.
Honestly, there's such a contrast between what you see on the field and what they are as personalities, which is actually kind of like how the great cricketer has been born or succeeded or whatever, is because you just, in Australia, in that era, which we came through at the same time, you're just told that you have to play a certain way and behave a certain way on the field.
You had to be ugly and unfriendly. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, and
unwelcoming.
You tell a story, which is now my story, which because I sort of tell a bit better. But you know, you go to training, and it's hot because it's summer in Australia, and you know, global warming. And, you know, if you're thirsty and the coach says, well, no, you're not going to have any water because water, if you drink water, that means you're weak.
It's weak.
Like, that's the mentality. It's insane.
Yeah.
You know, so like you come through this theory, you know, that's the theory element of playing cricket, and you have to sledge. You have to be really mean to the batsman. But then you watch other teams play international cricket and none of that bullshit goes on. There's no carry on. And it's like, that's interesting.
And they're still good.
They're still really good players. Yeah. But so then when you meet them off the field, like Ponting or Warne or Steve Waugh or whoever it is, they are nice people. But on the field, they're like, no, I have to be a psychopath to you because I need to win this game of cricket.
Yeah.
Which also raises a question, because I think in the great game, you guys have mentioned this before, which is that sledging earlier used to be really like, I think I'm glad that there weren't cameras in the 70s, etc. But do you think that because of the prevalence of social media and the fact that everybody has the internet, has that happened even in grade level cricket where like it's like you got like using the C word or whatever? Has it become a thing? Has it become a problem has it become way more toned down? It's like, hey, good shot, but try harder, okay?
You would not have survived in grade cricket, Sorabh. I tell you, with that kind of chat. I think that the guys now, I mean, because back when we were playing, like the international players would come back from time to time, not very often, but enough. They would still play club cricket, whereas now they just don't. They barely play for their state side, let alone club. But in the past, they always said that there was more sledging in club cricket, which is all just, again, like just male insecurity and all this stuff. And, you know, you're giving up your entire weekend to play the game that you're not very good at. And so, you know, a win for you is like, you know, having a real zinger that you can say to a 15-year-old to make yourself feel better about yourself.
Yeah. There's a real like social capital in sledging. Well, there used to be. But I think one of the things was that the lower down you went, the worse the sledging was.
Yeah.
And like not just like the higher quantity there was of sledging and the more vulgar it would be. So you could go even outside grade cricket to lower levels. And we even still get stories from people who write in thinking it's like they're writing unironically about how cool it was that they called someone an F and C or whatever, you know, and you're like, that's actually, that's not funny, mate.
Yeah.
But
sometimes it's pretty funny.
Sometimes really funny, actually.
Yeah.
I mean, but as you go higher up, there's sort of it's a little bit more like, it's not toned down. It can still be vicious, but it's just quicker, and then it's just over. So
it's what all the players say at the moment, right? Because of the IPL, they're all friends.
They're all
like
mates,
at that top level, they all know each other, and like they've all got interests in India. You know, who doesn't these days?
Yeah, that's right.
But you know, so I think there's probably less of that, you know, aggression, because you can't hate someone that you know, or you know their story, or whatever that correct saying is, which I've just bastardized. And so if you've got a friend or you know their story or you know what they're about, then, you know, you're probably less likely to sledge them, unless you're Marlon Samuels, in which case you just do whatever you want.
Yeah. Like it's my favorite thing to watch right now in the IPL and in general is Krunal Pandya trying to control himself, because he just can't. He's really struggling. He's like, I'm not Kane Williamson. I really want to go for this guy, but he has to resist it. Okay, there's a more. Chirag Shetty says, I'd actually love to get your opinion on this whole thing. I mean, before the IPL got postponed / cancelled, whatever it is. Chirag Shetty asks, Warner or management ? Big fan.
Warner or management?
Yeah, I think this is related
to this. Side are we on, Warner or management? Well, I didn't know that. One thing I didn't realize was, and tell me if I'm wrong, but Warner seems to be quite revered in India, whereas in Australia he's a very polarizing kind of character. Like people know that he can be a really devastating batsman, but a lot of like casual people associate David Warner with being a bit of a throwback to. I'm only speaking, sort of paraphrasing, but like a bit of a throwback to some of the old Australian behaviour. He could be a little bit aggressive and a little bit on the front foot with things. But I just noticed that in India, he's played so well. He's been arguably the best overseas IPL player ever. So I'll side with Warner.
Well, I've always been a Sunrisers Hyderabad guy, as you guys know. Yeah, and I used to be a part owner, which a lot of people don't know that about me. But
yeah.
So I'm actually a Kane Williamson fan. So yeah, they can do whatever. Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting one, isn't it? Because I think he scored 6 or 7 years in a row over 500 runs in the IPL. Like he's got an amazing record. But we were kind of hypothesizing the other day, or positing that he might be on the wane a little bit.
Maybe
Warner, possibly. You know, so it's a tricky one. It seems outrageous because he's been such a great player. They've lost every game except for one. Is that his fault? Yeah.
But by the way, the mixed feelings that Australians have towards David Warner, the reason why I think it doesn't exist in India is because he embarrassed you guys, not us. We are happy.
Yeah.
No, I mean, to be fair to him, like he's one of the greats. His record is amazing, and I think that he has evolved as he's become, as he's gone through various things. He's clearly a lot more mature now, and people do need to have especially here, like more of an open mind about the way people can change. I think he's a much more mature person. So definitely, I think there's more cricket in him, and more good cricket in him as well. So I hope he goes well.
There's nothing like more polarizing than so his ban after Sandpaper was that he can never have a leadership position in any team ever again. Steve Smith had a 2-year leadership ban, but he can never do it again. Whereas Warner's been captain for Sunrisers for the last couple of years, right? And that kind of says something about the standing that he has in the game. On that, I think their bans were insane, and they were not befitting of the crimes. Their crimes were insane also. They were some of the dumbest things you've seen on the field. But, if I wanted to have a blanket ban, never captain or have a leadership position ever again for Australia, pretty harsh.
He's carrying the sins of many fathers over many decades.
And so did Smith. Yeah.
Yeah. It was like, let's give these two guys a ban or a punishment that kind of helps to reset Australian cricket behavior that's been building for years, or for decades, which I don't think is very fair.
But Warner's TikTok game is pretty good.
TikTok was really good.
Really good.
Yeah.
I'm a massive fan of David Warner despite the TikTok. Like, I just can't get it. I'm like, this is weird. But I'm trying to understand this. What you just said about the ban. I mean, it's like so match fixing because like I think as a cricket fan, I have way less patience for match fixing because you're trying to lose. Like it's like in a very weird way, subconsciously, you're probably thinking like at least they were trying to win as opposed to make it worse. But a big fan of David Warner. I think it's also because he's height-wise he's relatively close to me, so it always makes me happy to see somebody like that succeed. And also he's always. And also he's got very small hands and he's a great fielder, so it just makes all of these things really. So I've been a big fan of David Warner. I think Indians, as a rule, we tend to be, as cricket fans, we tend to be very, very forgiving of everything else as long as you are, if you're nice to us as a rule, if that makes any sense.
I'll tell you what, I didn't realize he had small hands, but he's very thick.
He's thick.
David Warner.
Thick,
we've gone up and interviewed him before, and like just being his presence, like there's a real thickness to the body. There's a thickness to the hands as well. It's more important to be thick than big.
I mean, you talk about, we talked earlier about, having trust. The players could have trust. Like we've never interviewed Dave Warner, but we met him once we were doing a thing on a red carpet. And we met him, and I think he's probably aware of the grade cricketer, and it's kind of a bit sarcastic, take the piss, and like we were interviewing him, and I felt like I was batting in a test match, and he was standing at gully, because it was like the eyes and like the intensity, and it was like he wasn't looking directly at me; it was kind of a bit side eye-ish, and I was like, oh, I'm going to die today.
That was the least I've ever wanted to try and ask something a bit provocative or something. It really was. The eyes told the story.
They told the story. The story.
Anyway.
So
that makes me like him even more. Like it makes me oh my God. Yeah. And also the bushy beard. I mean, carrying off that mustache for so long. Everybody else has given up. Everybody else gave up and he's still on it. So that shows something about his confidence. Okay. Dhruv Anand, there's another super chat. Again, we have the boys for the next 13 minutes. So I'll try and get as many super chats as I can. If I miss yours, then please know we tried our best and all those things. Okay, Dhruv Anand, boys, absolutely love what Sam and Ian do. Eagerly waiting for their podcast to come out. Would like to thank you for your contribution towards COVID relief in India. Best wishes to you guys. This is a nice compliment.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ramesh Kamath says the theory on Jinx being the badass mafia is funny. Need to have a special podcast on it, please.
I think he's actually just a really sweet, lovely guy. Like I sort of asked a couple of cricketers about him, and with the angle of like, is there something going on? And they're like, what are you talking about? He's just a really nice guy. But there's something in those eyes. So you can't tell me that he's not killed someone before.
No, well,
you can't quite easily say that.
He was a great character for us because, like, I wonder if in like 5 or 10 years, when this famous series is recounted, that people will remember that Kohli wasn't there and that Rahane skippered it. Like, some people forget that Gilchrist was the captain when Australia finally beat India over there in 2004, and both characters are kind of similar. And Rahane just throughout this entire time where they finally usurped Australia's aggression and alphadom and stuff was just this really ice cool diplomatic character who all the players seemed to play for him and love it, in contrast to Virat. And so that gave us some stuff to work with. And obviously, because he seemed to be such a lovely, calm person, we had to make him into a mafioso killer.
We had to, yeah. There was just that moment.
Because you don't trust it, you don't trust anything in cricket.
Exactly.
So you can't, if someone's too nice, you can't trust it in Australian cricket.
What's your angle? Yeah. It was just that image, like right before the winning runs were hit at the Gabba, the team's just about to like charge onto the field. We've done it, guys. And Rahane is just sitting there, like just stroking a Cheshire cat, just like, yes, we have succeeded in the challenge. It's quite soft, actually.
He knew. He's like, Anushka is not due for 2 months. He doesn't know. Like Rahane, I would love to know what you guys think about this. So Rahane said that he wouldn't cut a cake because it had a kangaroo on it, and it's the national animal of Australia. Do you think that people would actually have been worked up by that, or is it just like?
No. I mean, I would have done it for comedy. I would have gone on a 70-minute rant. It's like, the disrespect shown to the national animal.
Yeah. I would have loved nothing more if he had cut the cake gleefully.
Whilst looking in the camera?
Yeah,
just
exactly.
Just dead-eyed straight.
No emotion or just grinning from ear to ear and slowly. That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Or just like a dental floss like Dexter and choke the kangaroo from behind.
I think there's a lot of people who could take that in the right spirit, but there's always just a small slither of people who get offended by it, and so he can't do that. What I want to know is, would he like to have done that?
Would he like to have done
was there a part of him that just wanted to look at the camera and just go,
yeah.
Anyway, he's probably a really lovely person, which is and a very calm, composed guy, which is why he achieved what he did.
He probably should have just put his fist into the cake and just pulled the heart out of it.
Yeah, that's right.
Like I can imagine when Washington Sundar named his dog Gabba, there was a call from Rahane. This 100%.
That's what we want to see. We'd love to have Washi on. I think it might be a little while now. That's what we want to know. Does that level exist? With does he do that with a little glint in the eye? Does he call it Gabba just going, that'll wind people up? And if so, more power to him.
Good. Yeah. Who's funny? Who's funny in Indian cricket? Is Chahal funny? Well, I've heard Chahal's fun.
Chahal is fun. Chahal is quite fun. Chahal is Yuzi's right at the top. I think also because he doesn't like I mean, when you think about it, like it's the survival thing, right? When you're that skinny around all these people who are gigantic, as you said, you need something, right? You can't be like, hey, Russell, fuck you.
Aaron Finch told us that he was funny. Aaron Finch was like, you should talk to Chahal. He's a funny bugger.
He's a funny bugger.
He's really funny. Rohit Sharma is actually funny. Rohit Sharma is very he's very Mumbaikar funny. Like you see him as a Mumbaiker and you're like, yeah, this is us, because he's like, hey, chelna, like, which is like, I mean, you guys don't know what that means, but means just get out of here, essentially, right? It's essentially that. And so he's got a very dad attitude where he's like, I know what I'm doing and it's okay. And so I'm a big fan of Rohit Sharma. And Washington Sundar again, great,
You gotta get guys either at the ends of their careers, they don't care anymore, they have less to protect, or guys on the way up who aren't famous enough yet.
Yeah. Or who don't understand the problems they're going to create.
Karan Johar is watching this episode right now. Did you guys? So Karan Johar basically is a Indian director who interviewed Hardik Pandya and KL Rahul, King Legend Rahul, as he's commonly known by himself. And they said some stuff on the show which got them. I think he got banned for about 4 matches and all sorts of stuff happened. It's something that you guys can watch retrospectively. It's quite a bizarre thing that happened.
I'm into it. That's good. That's cool.
Yeah. Okay, Jamin Forgestar says Ashwin and DK are super witty and would be fun to see you interview them. Which current cricketers are you looking forward to get on your channel? We already discussed that, but yeah, Ashwin is pretty much up there with the alpha funny guy.
Is he?
Yeah. Okay.
Isn't he? Do you think so?
We don't know. I get alpha vibes. From Ashwin.
Yeah.
But it's hard to know because, well, the Indian players they don't speak that much because they don't have to. You know, like publicly. I mean, like they don't. Well, they don't do
not to us. They don't need to speak to like other overseas audiences.
No. Exactly.
No, I would love to speak to Ashwin because he's obviously very opinionated. He's very strong in like what he thinks. He was really critical player to defeating Australia in the summer as well. So we couldn't play him, and he's polarizing as well. You know, there are players on the record, like I know on another podcast on tail enders in England, like Jimmy Anderson, hedges his bets on his views about Ashwin as a bloke sort of thing. That's exactly the sort of person I want to interview, So I would love, like Ashwin, he's a great player. And, just speaking to guys who wouldn't give one about Australians and stuff, that excites me.
That'd be fun.
So, it would be great to speak with him.
And first question would be, do your teammates like you?
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing that, Payne was going on about that all the time. So that would be great if he was up for it.
Yeah.
But by the way, I have to say that Tim Paine, I think until he got riled up a little bit by Ashwin, I enjoyed his sledging. I think it was fun. Like over the last year and a half, I've enjoyed what he's been trying to do. It's been quite interesting. Like barring, like I think then Ashwin got under his skin, which was also fun.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they were so under pressure, Australia. And that's what happens. That's why this moment in Australian cricket's so funny, because it's not like we know what they're really like, because actually a lot of really nice guys in the team, but they all come from a place where you got to play aggressive on the front foot. That's what comes naturally. But now there's been a culture review, so they're trying to do it in a little bit more palatable way for the public. So Tim Paine sledging Rishabh about babysitting and stuff. And you know that in the back of his head, he wants to swear at him and give it to him. And so when Paine started to do that against Ashwin, like, here we go. They're under pressure
We're
now.
back, baby.
The old Australia, the demons rise up. So
I thoroughly enjoyed Manas Labuschagne trying to do what was he trying to do? He was saying, what did he eat for dinner? Something bizarre he was trying to do, right? Which I thought was interesting. It was interesting, no?
His chat is rubbish.
Oh, he's on a different planet, Manas. Yeah.
Good player.
Hell of a player.
Yeah, and lovely guy.
Yeah.
The on-field stuff. Even his own mates, his own teammates are just like, man, you're rubbish.
He's lucky he averages 60 in Test cricket or whatever, because he wouldn't get picked if he was. So if he averages 55, he's out of that team, I reckon.
He loves cricket. He loves cricket so much.
We have Shamu who retracted his message and then gave another message. I think Manu's got what it is. The question was, do you think Australia would ever appoint a coach from Asia? Feels like Dravid would be an upgrade from Langer. Dude, I think Dravid would be an upgrade from anywhere right now.
I love that.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting.
That would get an interesting. Yeah, sorry, go on.
Well, no, I was just going to say, because Australia sent over Greg Chappell as a spy, obviously.
That went well.
Yeah. They got out of there real quick.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a tough pill to swallow, I reckon, for Australians. Like, because whilst we're starting to accept, well, I don't know if we have accepted that India's here to stay for the next 1,000 years. But, for the rest of the Australian public, I think, no, we're still the big dogs here. Yeah. We're still top dog. And so to get an Asian coach, I think there'd be some xenophobia being built up as well.
Easy, which is a shame.
Yeah.
Like, it is a shame. But,
because look what Dravid's done for the younger, junior draft.
Look how many Aussie coaches are in the IPL. Like, there's no problem there.
Yeah.
Exactly. You'd like to think that if there was a, Asian coach who was better than others and had great results, that you'd take them, no problem. But it doesn't work like, shamefully, it would be a factor that people would consider here. So,
yeah.
In India, it's also a cultural thing, right? Because it's also about languages. There's so many languages to speak. So for as a coach like Mohammad Siraj, I think speaks largely Hindi. There's a bunch of other people who do. So it's pretty hard to communicate with them. Like I remember there was that Mumbai Indians documentary on Netflix where they were trying to get across to Mustafazir. And he doesn't speak a word of English or Hindi, and he speaks Bengali. So would be pretty hard to communicate and get your point across to somebody like that. So I'm assuming that's also a thing. But Dravid speaks Aussie is what I'm trying to say.
No, Aussie, I think Dravid's like Aussies love Dravid. There's no issue there.
And now we've seen how angry he can get.
That's right. And he's got those Aussies will like him more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll take the last two questions because you guys have to go. This has been a pleasure. Please subscribe here and subscribe to the Great Cricketer. Always super fun. Okay. Kunal Singha Roy says, boys, is it sometimes difficult to censor your jokes even though you know you're doing it in the right spirit, but people may take offense to it? This is a question I'm sure you guys are used to answering.
What is it? Do we ever kind of censor what we want to say?
Yeah, essentially. Like, do you self-censor yourself and pull it back a little bit, pull back the punches? I don't think you guys do you?
I think there have been times when you start to say something and you're like, no, I might just pull that one back. No, we're definitely far worse off air. There's lots of questions we would like to ask people, but you just try and find the right place. Like you just try and find the right place that is appropriate for the guest, but maybe pushes it a little bit and the right place for the audience, but otherwise,
yeah. I mean, I'm sure you would know what it's like, Sorabh. Like as soon as the red light goes on when you're recording, like a bit in your brain goes off where you're aware that you're broadcasting to X thousand people, and so you can't. You have to be very delicate with what you're saying, as I am trying to do right now, because I just want to swear at you. But like I don't think. Yeah, I think we're pretty authentic to ourselves, but yeah, like we would never say anything that shocking, I don't think.
I think there's sometimes like, you know what, one thing before all of our interviews, we say to guests, like, is there anything you do or don't want to talk about? And the only person who's ever said something was Steve Waugh saying, I don't want to talk about Shane Warne. And then, I think I said something like, and he said, oh, you can try.
And then we asked him 3 questions about Shane Warne.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Most of the guys are pretty good. You know, I don't know. There aren't many scenarios that turn up where you go, oh, listen, you know what? I'm not going to touch that. I'm just not going to go there.
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome. Guys, this has been a pleasure. Thanks a lot for your time. I know you have many things to do and thoroughly enjoy the show. I would highly recommend the book, the pages that I've read so far. Very good. And please go ahead and get them. Sam, Ian, thanks a lot. A pleasure. Anything you guys would like to plug, anything that's coming up that you want to tell people to do, please go ahead.
If we were smarter, we'd have some things to direct people to, but it's the internet. People can use the internet. They know where we are.
Subscribe to us on YouTube on our channel. Hey, thanks to everybody who's enjoyed our show, and Sorabh, thanks for having us. We've enjoyed it, man.
It's been my pleasure, man. Thanks a lot. Take care, you guys. See you guys can switch off your videos. I'll just continue saying some nonsense to people. Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Ian. If you guys enjoyed that, please go ahead and tell them that. But I really had fun. I'll just read a couple of super chats that were pending. Akshay Kumar Nikhil says, you think Washi naming his dog Gabba has turned off the Aussies wanting to give him an Aussie passport? Otherwise, they would have liked him at number 5. Yeah, that's great. Okay, the last question was Oasis Bisht. Superb name, man. What a beautiful name. Oasis Bisht. Amazing. Boys, loved your reaction on the hammers and chisels theory to defeat India in the future. Who would put in a headshot beamer contest with Saini? The hammers and chisels theory. I've seen that video 3 times and it is still funny. It's legit hilarious. Go watch Great Cricketer. They do a lot of really fun stuff. If you're here right now, please do subscribe. 2,244 concurrent viewers. Let's get those likes up to about 1,400, 1,500, whatever it is. And keep the suggestions coming for guests because Great Cricketer, honestly, I discovered them because of you guys. A lot of you mentioned that, hey, you should get them and all the rest of that stuff. We're also talking to V Cricket to come on the show as well. As I said, Chris Shrikant is going to be here at some stage over the next 2 weeks or so. Talking to a bunch of cricketers, talking to a bunch of presenters, YouTube creators, etc., etc. Keep the suggestions coming and do subscribe here because again, this is a brand new channel and I'm doing 4 YouTube lives a week right here. On Saturday, we have 2 comedians, Sumaira Sheikh, Siddharth Dudeja. I'm trying to get Saurav Ghosh as well for those of you who remember that. And we're going to be discussing Tenet and if it was a superior movie to Avara, Pagal Divana. Abhish Mathew is going to be here. Ramya Rampriya is going to be here. Gaurav Gupta, Gaurav Kapoor, all of these people I'm talking to bring them as comedians and the rest. Keep your suggestions going. And also, if you'd like to support the show directly, you can go on Instamojo or PayPal. Raghav has just put the link here itself. And all Super Chat earnings from up till this show go towards NGOs that are trying to get oxygen cylinders going across India. Guys, this has been a pleasure. Thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate it. Big thanks to my mods, Dhanush, Raghav, Sharanya. Those are the 3 today. And thanks to everybody who super chatted. Take care of yourselves, friends. Love you all.